This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. There's a new dispensary in Winnipeg putting existing rules on an illegal substance to the test. An Ontario-based company launched a new store in Osborne Village selling magic mushrooms. As CBC's Josh Crabb reports, there's growing interest in the drug's possible therapeutic benefits.
This funky-looking shop in Osborne Village is defying drug laws. The dispensary is staffed by hourly employees, boasts psychedelic vibes, and has welcomed customers from 19 to 70. It's called Magic Mush. Their products contain a banned substance called psilocybin, the hallucinogenic ingredient in magic mushrooms.
It's very exciting. I mean, I know lots of people who get mushrooms other places, and they're either not the best or just are a really bad time.
The production, sale, and possession of psilocybin mushrooms remains illegal in Canada, with some exemptions for end-of-life care and people living with depression. The building's owner, who doesn't take issue, directed CBC to the store's lawyer for comment. Jamie Kagan, a partner at Thompson Dorfman Sweatman, says his Ontario-based clients know they're taking a risk.
We're hoping that, similar to what happened in the cannabis industry, which started in what we'd like to call a gray market, will move to a legal market.
Kagan didn't identify the owners, but says they've also opened shops in Ottawa and Toronto. He says their mushrooms are a natural product grown and processed in Ontario. While his clients haven't been charged, there have been raids at other dispensaries, but Kagan says they're hoping that doesn't happen here.
They want to show that this product is safe, can be sold reasonably and responsibly.
Winnipeg police say officers with its drug enforcement unit are aware of the dispensary, but so far no tickets have been issued and no products have been seized. Customers have to be 19 and there's a purchase limit of 28 grams.
I'm all for it. People should have the opportunity to try in a safe way different things if they want to. So.
Health Canada warns taking mushrooms may cause you to see, hear, or feel things that aren't there. Consuming them may also lead to anxiety, fear, and nausea. Clinical psychologist and University of Toronto adjunct professor Dr. Dominique Morisano studies psychedelic therapy. She's an advocate who sees potential benefits of mushrooms, but says there are still many unknowns that require more research.
Who are these medicines best for? Under what conditions? What are the protocols around use?
That hasn't stopped 19-year-old Nathan Stewart from experimenting.
I think lots of times it can be a big stress reliever and offer you a different perspective.
While clinical trials have shown promising results for potential therapeutic uses, the federal regulator says there are no approved products in Canada or elsewhere. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A high-profile Conservative MP came to Manitoba today to campaign, not for himself, but for the party's by-election candidate in Portage-Lisgar. CBC's Bartley Kivas tells us what Andrew Scheer was doing here.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Former Conservative leader Andrew Scheer, a 17-year Saskatchewan MP, made a pit stop in Winnipeg to support the by-election candidacy of Brandon Leslie.
I know Brandon is a dedicated believer in individual liberty and a proud Manitoban.
Leslie's a former campaign manager for Conservative MP Candice Bergen, who resigned her Portage-Lisgar seat in February. The riding's only been held by Conservative parties since it was created. In the last election, Bergen beat her closest competitor by 31 percentage points. But the Conservatives have competition from a man who used to be one of their own, Maxime Bernier, the leader of the People's Party of Canada. Scheer was here not just to praise Brandon Leslie, but to bury the man attempting a Portage-Lisgar seizure.
Anyone who really knows Max knows what this candidacy is all about. A desperate attention from a desperate politician trying to stay relevant and in the limelight.
This contest between the CPC and PPC is spicy. Earlier this week, Bernier called Brandon Leslie a fake Conservative and described him as a Johnny-come-lately to the cause of denouncing pandemic public health measures.
I was the only national politician, the only one who spoke against these draconian measures during that time when it was happening, and I paid the price.
That price was a $2,000 fine for violating Manitoba public health rules. Scheer, however, said Conservative voters don't give Maxime Bernier any cred.
People see that that he's not serious about the issues that he's talking about, that he's literally trying to divide Conservatives.
The Portage-Lisgar by-election will be held on June 19th. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The proceeds of crime will now help victims and police in Brandon. The province announced today it is using $349,000 from the Criminal Property Forfeiture Act to support the Bear Clan and Brandon Police. Police will use their funds to get a new drone. Over $80,000 will go to the Bear Clan in Brandon for a new minibus. Jade Gamblin is with Brandon's Bear Clan. She says right now all the group has is an SUV and volunteers' vehicles.
We look forward to being able to access more areas, so it'll definitely benefit us in that way, to also join our volunteers in wider patrol areas and possibly be able to transport people into safer areas as well, if needed.
That's Brandon Bear Clan getting a new minibus. Camping season in Manitoba often comes with the anxiety of trying to book those highly coveted spots. The province announced today it's spending millions of dollars to build more yurts, cabins, and campsites to try to meet the demand. CBC's Cameron McLean reports that campers welcome the news, but wilderness conservation advocates would like the province to do more.
It's a Manitoba tradition. Every year, thousands of people flock to the province's parks to spend time close to nature. Interest in the outdoors increased during the COVID-19 pandemic, and now the province is putting up more than $120 million over the next 10 years to try and meet demand.
We are increasing accessibility, elevating comfort, and safeguarding the natural charm of our parks.
The plan calls for 45 to 50 new yurts, starting with Essissippi and Duck Mountain provincial parks. It will also add electricity to more campsites and improve washroom facilities. A consultant's report last year suggested raising fees, but the province says there are no plans to do that. Frequent campers like Erica Dick welcome the new spending.
I think any money that goes into any of our park systems, infrastructure, roads, or increasing the availability of campsites or yurts is awesome, because that's something that everybody in Manitoba seems to do.
But Eric Rader of the Wilderness Committee says the way to meet demand for space is to create more parks.
What we're missing here is that we can't just keep the same number of parks and keep hoping that we can get more and more people into these parks. We need to grow parks, we need more spaces, we need more activities to do in more parks.
The announcement on Thursday didn't include much spending on backcountry infrastructure or trails, but the province says there's more to come.
COVID has certainly heightened the public's demand for parks and trails, and we will have a strategy and an announcement here in the next 2 weeks on that.
The plan also calls for more than $100 million to improve roads in and around provincial parks, all in an effort to create more happy campers. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
And if you're one of those happy campers going out to enjoy Manitoba's parks this weekend, please be extra careful around the campfire. Right now, there are 11 wildfires burning in Manitoba. Crews are working to suppress several of them near Norway House and Pimichimikamak Cree Nations. Even though the wildfire danger across the province is officially at low right now, officials are warning us to be careful through the long weekend as temperatures rise. Due to dry conditions in the area, Lundar Beach Provincial Park will restrict campfires to between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. only, and only in approved pits in developed areas. ATV drivers across the province are asked to stay on developed trails. The last thing you'd want is to see a spark, set something off, a wildfire. We do have cool conditions right now. Has that helped, perhaps?
I think it has. And a little bit of rain this morning, a little bit more through the evening hours. I'll show you all of that. But no alerts right now. The special air quality statement is done. It was lifted today. Have a look at the smoke plume over the last 3 days, though. And it's going to look pretty ominous here over southern Manitoba. However, we are seeing the smoke kind of stay aloft. It's not really something that we can smell, at least not here in the Winnipeg and Red River Valley area. So that is the smoke that is aloft. It's much worse out to the west of us, as you can imagine. Right now we're at 7 degrees. We expected a cool day today. I forecasted 10. We got to just over 9, winds gusting to 46 out of the northwest. What a change from early yesterday, and what a change we'll have as we go into tomorrow with high pressure clearing skies to the north. Today it was 16 or 17 in Thompson. Lynn Lake was at 17, while Winnipeg was at like 8 or 9 degrees. So the sun is really packing a punch this time of year. All right, let's zoom in on satellite. Shows us the cloud cover. The blue you see is what's falling out of the cloud, and it is rain. And there's another batch of it up through the Interlake, Lake Manitoba, the South Basin. That's all moving maybe toward Brandon through the evening hours. We've seen a few showers here kind of evaporating as they reach Winnipeg, and this will continue to circulate out and down to the south and east as indicated here on Futurecast. When will it clear? I think in Winnipeg by about 3:30 in the morning. There's 3 o'clock. The back edge of the cloud just reaching the bottom end of Lake Winnipeg and the Winnipeg area. Still a few showers east of the Red River Valley. By this time, it's already cleared in Brandon and Dauphin, so temperatures overnight into tomorrow morning will be a little bit cooler. And then by 8 a.m., we are looking at sunshine here and still clouds just clearing out of the Kenora area. High pressure moves down to the south and east of us through the day and on into Saturday. So late Friday and early Saturday, we develop a southerly wind flow, and that warms us up. Saturday, mainly sunny and back to the mid-20s, and we'll stay with the sunshine mainly as we head on into Sunday as well. All because of the upper ridge. The jet stream is that edge of the blue color you see. It's well to the north of us. Really warm down in Montana as we head into Saturday. And then as we work our way through the weekend, a little bit cooler Sunday, but on Monday, this really hot air starts to move into southern Manitoba, and we end up with temperatures in the upper 20s for Holiday Monday. So 4 degrees tonight. I wouldn't worry about frost. Winds are staying a little bit up there, so that'll negate any formation of frost. That's an 8 o'clock in the morning temperature. Afternoon, right back to seasonal conditions, sunshine and fairly light winds. It'll be a lot different than what it was today. And then 25 Saturday, 22 on Sunday, all the way to 28 for Holiday Monday, Janet. So a dry and sunny May long weekend.
You're going to need your sunscreen, your
exactly.
hats, things we haven't thought about for a while. Thank you, John.
You bet.
The provincial government has been dogged by questions all week about the possible banning of LGBTQ2S+ books in Brandon. It's something some parents there would like to see. The NDP and Liberals want the government to condemn even the potential for a ban. And as CBC's Ian Frey shows us, the Premier had to address the issue while in Brandon today.
Thanks to my colleagues who have joined me here today.
Premier Heather Stephenson visited Brandon to tout her government's accomplishments. What she couldn't do was close the chapter on a proposed book ban.
As I understand, there is no ban, and so really it's hypothetical at this stage.
But the worry remains.
This is a dangerous path our children are being enticed to go down.
Earlier this month, a delegation asked the Brandon School Division to remove LGBTQ content from libraries, saying students must be protected from sexual grooming and pedophilia. The outcry was swift.
I am not in support of banning anything related to that topic.
The government's been on the hot seat.
Can the Premier state clearly today whether she wants to see a book ban in Manitoba?
In Brandon to speak with business leaders, the Premier says she wants the books to stay.
I don't like bans of things of this nature. I don't think we do. We're past that, I hope. We don't want to go back to, that kind of, trying to control those things.
Despite her stance, Stephenson says she won't meddle in the affairs of a school division. It's one reason the Tories abandoned plans to eliminate school boards.
I went everywhere in this province, heard loud and clear that there was a want and a desire for local autonomy, and that's exactly what is taking place.
The NDP's Brandon East candidate isn't impressed.
Well, today, yet again, she had the opportunity to clearly state that she stands with LGBTQ+ families in Brandon, and she passed on that opportunity.
News of a possible ban is hitting the classroom.
My youngest son, who is in grade 5, said to me, he's like, "Mom, they're trying to take the books away." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "But you still love your cousins who are gay and your friends and family who are lesbians and all that." And he's like, "I don't care if they're like boys or girls."
One mother of some future students says parents have a role to play.
He can read what he wants as long as he's reading.
If he has questions about what he's reading, I'll answer them.
School trustees will discuss this proposal on Tuesday. While the trustees haven't revealed where they stand, one trustee did congratulate one of the book banning presenters for her courage during the meeting 2 weeks ago. This next meeting is expected to be a full house. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Brandon.
There is a forum underway at Gordon Bell High School in Winnipeg this evening to call attention to issues around missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people. The forum was organized by students. CBC's Emily Brass is there. What's happening, Emily?
Well, Janet, I'm in the hallway at Gordon Bell High School, just outside the gym, and that's where the forum is already happening. There are 3 speakers here tonight. One of them is Cambria Harris, who we've seen in the news a lot. Her mother's believed to be one of the victims of alleged serial killer Jeremy Skibicki, and Cambria's been raising awareness about missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls nationwide and even internationally. Also, here's Leslie Spillett. She calls herself a community kukum, and she's an advocate, as well as the founder of Gani Ganichik, which is a center in the North End that supports Indigenous women and their families. And as well, Jamie Black is here, and she's the Indigenous artist who came up with the idea for the Red Dress Project, which reflects on missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. In fact, you can see a red dress hanging behind me on the showcase here. And I had a chance to speak with one of the students who organized tonight's event. Here's what he had to say. Grade 12 Gordon Bell student Sheldon Bayer is one of the organizers and tonight's MC. Hi, Sheldon.
Hi, it's nice to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you. So tell us, how did this come about?
So at the beginning of our school year, around October, we formed our United Way group, and we looked at our UN sustainability goals. And through those sustainability goals, we came up with the idea of our forum about murder and missing Indigenous women and girls and Two-Spirited people. We really thought that we can really inspire our community and get a message out there for this growing epidemic, not even in Winnipeg, but around Canada. So we really want to, reach the wider community, get our message out there, and yeah.
So which sustainability goal are you talking about then?
We're talking about gender equality, homelessness and poverty, especially within Indigenous communities, and also just equality in general, especially for Indigenous women. So that's our main focus for our forum. So we're really hoping that we achieve those goals with what we're doing tonight.
And so what kind of talks have you guys had as a group when you've been discussing gender inequality and missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls?
So we've really spoke to a lot of people around our community, like Miss Janice Miller, who really gave us some insight on what we can do with our forum and what else we can do to get our message out there. We also spoke with another person named Miss Kirsten Witwicky, who really gave us really good information on what to do with our forum and how to run it, and especially how it's going to look like. So we discussed our sustainability goals with them, and they just gave us really good feedback on how we can achieve those goals.
And it's a pretty intense subject, MMIWG. I mean, how have you guys been responding and feeling about it when you've been organizing this?
So it's definitely a more heavy topic. We really have been taking this really seriously. But we're giving a lot of people a chance to, get their voices out there, say what they want to say, especially within, our school. We just think that this is just a super important topic that needs to be talked about more, especially within our community and Winnipeg as a whole.
And so what do you hope people take away tonight after they leave?
To just really give in thought that this is an issue that's happening, and to maybe make an effort to put an end to this, or just to spread awareness, really, and to just keep it in their minds that this is a problem that needs to be resolved.
And that was grade 12 Gordon Bell High School student Sheldon Bayer. And the 3 panelists are giving their speeches right now. And after that, students and community members who are here will have a chance to ask questions. And I'm going to have more on this later on at the CBC Winnipeg Late Night News at 11 o'clock. Back to you, Janet.
Thank you so much. That's the host of that 11 o'clock newscast, Emily Brass, reporting live from Gordon Bell High School tonight. WestJet has started parking its planes and canceling flights. This as tomorrow's deadline for a pilot strike looms. We'll have the latest on where negotiations stand and how local travelers are feeling after the break. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. WestJet has already started canceling flights before a possible pilot strike tomorrow morning. Canada's second largest airline says talks are at a critical impasse. But as CBC's Sam Sampson shows us, the thousands of Canadians who were not expecting the airline to make changes today have been left scrambling.
Connor Guillet is a details guy. For his trip to Kyrgyzstan, he prepped his wardrobe and gifts for local children. Then this morning, his WestJet flight to Toronto was canceled.
Really did think I had all my bases covered. It's pretty disappointing. I think I'm disappointed that it's such a large, wealthy organization, and it's the small customers who they rely on that are really feeling the brunt of this disruption.
WestJet canceled flights across Canada, even though contract talks with the pilots are still happening. A strike hasn't started. The company says it's preparing for upcoming job action. Customers can either get a refund or a new flight. But just ahead of the May-long weekend, it thrust tens of thousands into travel limbo. Muzammil Murad's family was supposed to meet him in Florida for a cruise. Their flight also canceled this morning. He forked out almost $2,000 for tickets with a different airline so his wife and kids could join him.
He's all excited for the trip, and then having to explain to him last night that Daddy can't talk to you because Daddy's on the phone talking to different airlines and credit card companies trying to figure out what's going on.
The pilots' union wants higher wages, closer to what some U.S. airlines offer. WestJet says meeting their demands would hurt the company's ability to offer lower fares. With no sign of things getting settled, some believe these canceled flights ahead of the strike deadline was a negotiation tactic.
What the airline has done here is played a very firm hand in this, and this could disrupt their travel plans. But going forward, this action and the decision by the airline could entail consumers not booking with this airline in future, thinking, okay, if this can happen now, it can happen in future, therefore we'll look to another carrier.
The pilots' union tells CBC News talks continue ahead of the 5 a.m. Eastern strike deadline. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Toronto.
Travelers here in Winnipeg are also feeling the impact of canceled flights ahead of job action tomorrow. CBC News spoke with some of them at Richardson International Airport earlier today.
Well, we just on our way to the airport here to catch our flight to Calgary and then to Rome. They sent us an email saying that the Rome portion is canceled. And this was rebooked yesterday to avoid the strike because we're supposed to leave Friday. So now they just pulled the plug on us last minute. They haven't canceled the Calgary flight, but what are we going to do in Calgary if we can't get to Europe?
It's not a good look, and it erodes the trust, especially with our local Canadian airlines. You just think, okay, I probably won't just fly WestJet anymore.
We can't do anything. We can't cancel our flight or we lose it. We have to wait for them to cancel it, and then we can maybe make a move and do something. So it's not a good situation for people flying, for sure.
So frustrating. Residents of Valley View, Alberta, got the news they've been waiting for today. They are being allowed to return to their homes. With 92 fires burning across the province, including more than 24 that are out of control, about 12,000 people remain under evacuation orders. And air quality advisories from wildfire smoke remain in place for much of Alberta. Crews of more than 2,500 are battling fires in the province, including support from several provinces, including Manitoba. The Canadian military is already there, and the U.S. One firefighter has suffered serious injuries near East Prairie Métis settlement. His family says he's in a coma in an Edmonton hospital. Hot and dry conditions are still in the forecast for Alberta, which means difficult days are ahead for fire crews. As the Prime Minister arrived in Hiroshima for this year's G7 summit, the focus is glaringly clear. By holding the meetings in that tragic, historic city, Japan's reminding the world of the destruction that comes with war and nuclear weapons. It's the second grim reminder for Canada's team this week. Ashley Burke explains.
The shadow of two past wars hung over Prime Minister Justin Trudeau heading into the G7. The first in South Korea, where he joined a group of youth to hike to the scene of the Battle of Kapyong, one of the key fights for Canadian troops during the Korean War. Trudeau then touched down in Hiroshima, Japan, a historic city that almost 80 years ago was destroyed. The U.S. dropped the world's first atomic bomb, killing tens of thousands of people. Japan's Prime Minister lobbied to hold a 3-day summit here in his hometown to push for a world without any nuclear weapons as Russia's president threatens to unleash his on Ukraine. Survivors of the atomic bomb want G7 leaders to do that without using nuclear weapons. This survivor of the bombing says she wants G7 leaders to seriously acknowledge the inhumanity of nuclear weapons. They are weapons that can destroy mankind, she said.
Nuclear weapons is increasing again, and North Korea is developing and strengthening its nuclear arsenal. China is building up its strategic nuclear forces very quickly. Russia is suggesting possible use of nuclear weapons. That's really bad.
Japan's president wants G7 countries to pledge to move towards disarmament. As the G7 gets underway, a key agenda item is continuing to support Ukraine. A government official said that Canada also wants to take a leadership role to try and help lower and middle income countries with a range of issues, including food and energy security. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Hiroshima.
Healthcare is the most expensive category in the budget of any provincial government. All over our country, provinces are looking for ways to deliver healthcare more efficiently. Alberta's United Conservative government thought paying private clinics to do more surgeries would save money and shorten wait times. But new nonpartisan research suggests that's not working. Christine Burak explains.
The report is titled Failing to Deliver. It looks at a plan Alberta announced in 2020 to speed up surgeries. The province is spending $400 million taxpayer dollars to send patients into charter or private for-profit clinics to increase the number of surgeries and hopefully reduce wait times. But researchers say, here's what's actually happening.
Instead of increasing capacity overall and increasing the number of surgeries that the province performed, what we saw is the exact opposite.
Through Freedom of Information requests, researchers found there was a 6% decline in total surgeries done over 3 years. As taxpayer-funded surgeries in private for-profit clinics increased almost 50%, hospital surgical activity fell 12%. Researchers say both systems are now competing for the same healthcare workers. As more professionals leave the public system for higher pay, waits in the public system will get longer.
There is no question that it's coming at the expense of staffing in our public hospitals in Alberta and really constraining the ability of public hospitals in Alberta to ramp up surgeries.
Aside from cataract surgeries, Alberta has among the longest waits in Canada now for priority procedures. Before the Alberta Surgical Initiative, 64% of Albertans needing hip replacement surgery had it within 6 months. In 2022, that number had fallen to 38%, even below the Canadian average.
If it was an easy fix, a big fix for the struggles that healthcare systems are having around the world, we would know. They've been researching this for a long time, so the findings for me, are not surprising at all.
Tim Caulfield teaches health law at the University of Alberta. He says market forces do not work well in healthcare, even when politicians double down on them.
The data is pretty consistent, right? When you have public and for-profit, it's usually more expensive. There's no evidence it's more efficient.
Caulfield says Canadians deserve timely care, and provincial leaders should be looking towards new evidence-based ideas to deliver it. Christine Burak, CBC News, Toronto.
Thousands of people gathered in Ottawa today for the funeral of a 42-year-old Ontario provincial police officer who was shot to death last week. We'll bring you more on this story after the break. Thousands gathered to mourn a slain Ontario Provincial Police officer in Ottawa today. OPP Sergeant Eric Mueller was killed in the line of duty last week. The 42-year-old was a husband and father of two. Rochelle El-Soufi reports.
Officers from across the country marching in solidarity to honor one of their own. Sergeant Eric Mueller was killed while on call in the community of Bourget. Two other officers were also injured in the incident. One remains in hospital. Police called it an ambush. Many turned out to remember the fallen officer, lining overpasses and bridges as the funeral procession made its way through Ottawa.
To support family and to support the officers that do so much for us.
You know, that man had a family and friends and a successful career ahead of him, and it's devastating.
Amazing. Inside the Canadian Tire Centre, thousands of officers gathered for a solemn tribute. Sergeant Mueller was a veteran officer with 21 years of service. He leaves behind a wife and two children. His family, friends, and colleagues remembering him for his sense of humor, his lifelong dream of becoming a police officer, and his love of being a father.
Eric lived to protect those he cared for the most. And although the manner of it was so senseless, we tried to take solace in knowing he died doing what he loved.
Ontario's Premier Doug Ford was in attendance.
I'm so sorry for your pain. We all grieve with you as you mourn the loss of yet another brother.
And a message from OPP Commissioner to the officers picking up where Mueller left off.
We have a collective responsibility to dig deep within ourselves, to find the courage, strength, and resolve needed in these unprecedented times.
The investigation into what happened is still ongoing, and Ontario's police watchdog has launched its own investigation after evidence surfaced suggesting that an officer discharged his firearm at the scene. A 39-year-old man has been charged with first-degree murder and 2 counts of attempted murder. Rochelle El-Soufi, CBC News, Ottawa.
A recent study sheds new light on the heat wave that hit parts of southern Asia last month. International scientists say it was made 30 times more likely because of climate change. In India, the scorching heat has caused deaths and crop failures, but that's just part of the wide-ranging impact severe weather is having on its people. Salim Shivji has that story.
Even in the early hours, it's painful under Delhi's fierce sun. Any relief is but temporary. From a stifling heat, at times impossible to bear. For those dependent on the money from their crops, there's no other way. It doesn't matter how hot it gets, this farmer says. My entire family has to be out here. The same struggle at this local market. There's no shade or shelter to save us from the heat, this vendor says, but we have to sell our vegetables.
It's flirting with 40 degrees here in Uttar Pradesh outside of Delhi, and that is a good day, a brief respite, with temperatures heading into the mid-40s. Experts say India is getting more days of extreme heat that are far more intense for sustained periods. Heat waves are expected to double, even triple, over the next few decades.
Last month, 13 people died at an outdoor event near Mumbai in a heat wave scientists say was made 30 times more likely because of climate change.
It is heat plus humidity that we need to be worried about. The problem is that climate change is simultaneously increasing temperature and humidity.
The additional threat is an economic one, lost working hours due to extreme heat. India is more vulnerable on that front than any other country in the world. And so there's a push to adapt. Small initiatives like at this government daycare center in India's south, one of Chennai's poorest areas. Temperature readings are a constant, monitoring the progress of this newly planted garden on the roof.
We are noticing around a 1 degree difference between the two across the day measurements. As the green patch increases, we look forward to the temperature difference being somewhere around 3 degrees.
The hope is those few degrees will make a big difference to help blunt the effects of a warming climate, one roof at a time. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Uttar Pradesh.
Rescue efforts in Italy remain a challenge even days after heavy rains triggered deadly flooding. Rivers of mud have oozed into towns and villages, cutting off access to roads. At least 13 people are known to have died, and more than 10,000 people have fled their homes. Megan Williams brings us the details.
Country roads, now canals. Vineyards swamped. A lone family and their dog adrift on water where verdant land once spread out. And in towns like Castel Bolognese, the cleanup begins, one painstaking shovel at a time. This region, Emilia-Romagna, famed for its wine, fruit, and rice, was covered by up to 2 meters of water. More than 20 small rivers bursting their banks after days of heavy rain. Thousands fled their homes, with others having to be rescued from rooftops or in rubber dinghies. Luckily, no one was hurt here. We just have to work hard and keep going, says this man. Environmental observers say the situation has been worsened by months of drought, coupled with years of eliminating water-absorbing forests and vegetation. With landslides continuing today, a cliff caving in was caught on video. Organizers of the Formula One Grand Prix set to take place in the town of Imola on Sunday have canceled the race. As evacuations continue with more rain on the way, Italy's government says it will put aside $45 million for rebuilding the devastated area. Megan Williams, CBC News, Bologna.
And yet again, meteorologist John Sauder, another reason to be grateful. You know, we see these stories around the world that are just heartbreaking, and we think, okay, not so bad here.
One extreme to the other. You know, India, we've got the heat and the dry conditions, and then we've got the flooding in Italy. And here we're heading back into dry conditions. So it's a long weekend. Thought I'd give you a cottage country forecast. So we'll start there. A few different regions and a few different days to check out here. This is for eastern Manitoba, northwestern Ontario. Saturday, a little cool. It'll be cooler in these areas than in the Winnipeg area, for instance, on Saturday. High of 20 degrees, lots of sunshine. Still sunny on Sunday, but a cooler high of just 16. So areas around Kenora, Whiteshell. Whiteshell will be a little bit warmer than that, and then 23 on Monday. Now, if we look at the Lakes region, Gimli, Hecla, we're looking at mid-20s on Saturday. Overnight temperatures staying well above zero. Just 20 on Sunday, and then starting to heat up on Monday. We're getting some heat in southern Manitoba, so a high of 27 degrees. And then up around Riding Mountain, we've got 23 on Saturday. Lots of sunshine. Sunny as well on Sunday at 21. And then as we head into Monday, we're at 27 degrees with more of a sun-cloud mix. All right, let's get through some temperatures that are still falling here. Already 6 degrees at the airport, 8 downtown, 5 in St. Laurent. And as we look out to the west, we've got temperatures cooling in the single digits today all across the south. The north, we still have 17s and 18s, so much warmer in northern Manitoba today than it was in the south because of the sunshine. And this is the system that will continue to circulate out tonight. As it does, it takes some showers, or at least a chance of showers, into northwestern Ontario tonight. And we've got some evening showers kicking around in the southeast, but that's followed by clearing overnight. So you'll wake up to sunshine tomorrow, and we'll see clearing overnight in the west as well. But temperatures in the west down to 1 or 2. Could see some frost in outlying areas, although winds may prevent that from happening. Single-digit lows, but generally clear skies across the north, and then lots of sunshine tomorrow, except for Churchill. Showers through the day and some smoky conditions and a high of 11 degrees. Here, nothing but sunshine, low 20s out in the west. I think Winnipeg tomorrow will be in that same general ballpark at 21, 18 in Gimli, 20 in Steinbach, and then farther out to the east in northwestern Ontario, we're looking at 19 tomorrow in Kenora, Fort Francis at 18, but 21 in Red Lake.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
I know your weekly trips to the grocery store have been getting more and more costly. New statistics show they've actually gone up, prices in Manitoba more than in other provinces. Why is that? We're going to hear from a professor of food distribution what's been going on and what's coming after the break. According to a new Statistics Canada report, grocery bills in Manitoba have gone up more in the past year than any other province. Food costs have gone up by 10.4% in the last year here in Manitoba, compared to the national average of 9.1%. To single out some foods alone, chicken's gone up 17% in Manitoba, butter almost 15%, and cooking oil by almost 25%. Sylvain Charlebois is a professor of food distribution and policy at Dalhousie University. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Why do you think food costs have been higher in Manitoba, the increase, than in other provinces?
I think it boils down to a cycle. A few years ago, Manitoba saw a new player in the market, Save-On Foods, and I think Save-On Foods really made things cheaper for a while. In fact, if I remember a few years ago, Manitoba actually had the lowest food inflation rate for a while, actually. But now, since 2022, I think it's just the opposite. The market has normalized itself, I guess, and because there are no new players in the market, well, prices tend to go up a little bit faster than in other provinces. That would be my guess. And of course, there are other elements that are making food prices more expensive across the board. But in Manitoba specifically, I think it boils down to the food distribution landscape.
How hopeful are you that we will see food prices drop back down to where they were a year ago?
There is zero chance it's going to happen because there's a new baseline when it comes to costs across the food industry. From farm gate to plate, if you talk to any companies, they are paying their employees more. Packaging costs have gone up, energy costs have gone up, transportation costs have gone up. So it's much more difficult to do business in a very tight margin environment.
How is climate change going to impact all of this?
Oh, climate change is impacting food prices every single day. Argentina is just finishing its summer right now, and harvest was actually impacted by droughts. California was impacted by floods in the winter. That impacted us. That's why vegetables are so expensive. And we are expecting beef prices to go up midsummer this year because of a drought in the U.S. Inventories are going to be very low. Climate change is, without being a constant, is a constant. So Mother Nature will always have an unknown plan that actually is going to make our dinner plates more expensive.
Is there anything governments can do? Because if you're thinking in terms of families not being able to afford to buy food now and it's just going to get worse, what policy could be put in place? What can we do to make things better?
Make Canada a more competitive market. Right now, it's not all that interesting for external players coming into the market. I'm thinking of Lidl and Aldi specifically, but also interprovincial barriers are a problem. It's very difficult to do business across the country with more barriers. And lastly, the code of conduct, which is actually in the works right now in Ottawa, that would discipline the supply chain. It would actually support independent grocers. Right now, independent grocers are disappearing, and that's robbing consumers of some options, retail options. So if we protect independent grocers a little bit more in Canada through a code of conduct, I think consumers will have access to more competition.
And you say that code of conduct is in the works?
Yeah, we should actually hear within the next few weeks exactly what's going to happen. But I'm confident that something will be announced. The problem is that we're looking at a voluntary code of conduct, and that's not good enough. I don't think that Walmart and Loblaws would be interested in something like that.
Sylvain Charlebois, thank you for your time today.
My pleasure.
Looks pretty gray out there now, but hey, there is sunshine coming. How long will it stick around, though? John's 7-day forecast and your daily lift when CBC Winnipeg News returns.
Well, tonight in these parts anyway, we'll go to sleep under cloud cover, wake up to bright sunshine, and temperatures are recovering nicely. 21 tomorrow, mid-20s Saturday, a little bit of a setback on Sunday, but then the heat arrives and a less stable air mass arrives late Tuesday. Could even see some showers or thunderstorms Wednesday and Thursday. Now, they say there's no I in team,
True.
but for one athlete in Ohio, that may not be the case.
Because I was the team. This high schooler managed to win the state team championship in track and field all by herself as the only member of her team. Here's your daily lift.
I have 7 pairs of shoes in my track bag. So I have 2 flats, high jump spikes, long jump spikes, triple jump spikes, and then practice sprint spikes, and then competition sprint spikes.
May not be a usual kind of shoe collection, but it sure helped Juliet, this young athlete, nab the state indoor track and field championship all by herself, solo. The high school senior competed against teams of up to 15 girls each, but she took top prize. She won 4 individual competitions, which gave her alone enough points to claim the state title. Woo, nice. Jump.
Perhaps a future decathlete or something in the Olympics?
Perhaps.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, she'll need more shoes, but
We have NHL hockey coming up.
we do.
Hurricanes and Panthers coming up, game 1 of the 3rd round right now on CBC.
Thanks for being with us. See you tomorrow.
See ya.